Okay, so just my pillow because I am an old woman. So, welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Snap, otherwise known as Cat. Speaking of cats, I don't know where they are at the moment, but as an intro, I am a crazy cat lady at heart, perpetually covered in cat fur, with a slight addiction to caffeine, and more than a handful of health problems, including endometriosis. So, as a way of easing myself into making any content for YouTube, because it's just not something I've ever done before, and because I was curious as to what would crop up, I decided to have a peruse on r/am I the arsehole, specifically looking at questions or submissions that were related to endometriosis. Some of you might be asking, what is endometriosis? It wouldn't surprise me if some of you were asking. Mainly because whenever I've mentioned it to people, there's a good chance that they have no idea what I'm on about. So as a bit of a brief summary, I guess, I do intend on doing a proper video on it, but because I am not a medical expert by any means, I want to make sure that I'm not contributing to what is already a lot of misinformation out there about endometriosis. I want to make sure that it's properly done with references ready and available so that people can then go on to do their own research on it. But just as a bit of a brief summary, endometriosis is a condition in which tissue that is similar to the lining of the tissue within the uterus, endometrial tissue, which grows outside of the uterus. Now, in terms of where it decides to grow outside the uterus, because it can grow absolutely, well, anywhere really, it typically remains within the sort of abdominal area, so just outside the uterus, on the fallopian tubes, maybe on the ovaries, peritoneal, pelvic wall. It may go a little bit further, so maybe to the bowel, to the bladder. Could even go as far as to the diaphragm, but generally speaking, I mean, it's not always going to be on these spots. It may only be on a little bit, it may be on a lot. Does that make sense? I don't know. Where that tissue lands, to at least the best of my understanding, it can create scar tissue, which can build up over time because it's got nowhere else to go. Some of the classical symptoms of endometriosis, actually, if I read them from, I will pull that up, actually, that's actually probably a better idea than me just bluffing it. I want to make sure that even if this is just a brief summary, that I'm not completely bullshitting. Looking at the NHS webpage for endometriosis, some of the symptoms can include pain during or after sex, pain that is significant enough to stop you from doing your daily activities when you're on your period, pain outside of your period, around your lower back pelvic area. You could also experience, depending on where that tissue lands, depending on where that scar tissue forms, you could experience pain when you're peeing or pooping. Now, of course, even if you don't have endometriosis, you can still experience these symptoms. You can still experience heavy periods or horrible period pain, or, you can still experience these things. And you shouldn't feel ashamed to reach out for love, to loved ones for help during these times. And equally, your loved one shouldn't be giving you grief if you do reach out for help, or if you need that little bit of extra support in that time. I mean, I am incredibly lucky with my partner, who is absolutely amazing in supporting me, but I've certainly had times in the past where I've not been as supported. And it's going to be interesting to see whether there's any individuals like this in these Am I the Asshole posts. So as I was perusing Reddit, I managed to come across actually quite a few of these, so maybe there'll be enough for a second video, who knows. But we'll see what happens, okay? Am I the asshole for yelling at my husband? My daughter started having terrible period pain a year ago. We have been to a few gynos, and they have all run the normal tests and it's all come up clear. I think it might be endometriosis because it runs in my family. It's the same symptoms and it started around the same age for her as it did for my sister. It takes a long time to get diagnosed, and some days she is okay and some days she's crying on the floor due to the pain. Oh, darling. Yeah, no, she is right in that. I think the average length of time, at least in the UK, is, I think, about 7 years from the start of which you've started to, I think from the start of symptoms, I think. But it takes about 7 years to get diagnosed. I got very lucky with mine in that between me first going to the doctor for it and me finally getting a diagnosis, it was about 3.5 years. I mean, I don't know if it is called lucky, but I mean, I consider it lucky when I look at the other statistics. But yeah, oh darling. Yeah, and running all the normal tests, well, like I say, the gold standard, as far as I'm aware, is a laparoscopy, which is where a small incision is made at the belly button, just under it's only like a little teeny tiny thing, and they may make one just on the pelvis, and it involves taking just a camera and going through, under general anaesthetic of course, just having a actual look inside. You can run ultrasounds, and this frustrates me. I should really jump back to those, but quick, it really frustrates me because one very sort of common sort of bit of misinformation I hear out there is that an ultrasound can concrete say that you don't have endometriosis, which is not true. Not true. We'll go back to this. Her current doctor wrote a note informing her school of her pain, saying she should be able to be exempt from PE if she isn't feeling well. I can't write a 504 because she isn't diagnosed. I'm not aware of what that is. Because she isn't diagnosed yet, but I always go in to meet her teachers and explain the situation, and they are usually good about it. Her father, though, doesn't believe she has anything wrong with her and thinks it's just her being whiny and periods are supposed to hurt.
The palm thing.
This year there was a PE teacher take over for the current PE teacher, so I hadn't met him yet. And he called me and my husband, but I was busy, so my husband picked up. He told my husband that my daughter was refusing to run laps with the other students, saying she wasn't feeling well and had abdominal pain. My husband told the new PE teacher to make her run, it's good for her. So she came home sobbing, and when I got home, she told me the teacher made her run and she threw up and curled on the floor, unable to move because of her pain, and all the other students were watching. Oh God, darling. Darling. I went to the school furious with this new PE teacher until he explained that my husband told him to make her participate. I confronted my husband and he thinks she is making it up because up until a year ago she was fine and I was the one putting ideas in her head that she was in pain. I screamed at him because I couldn't believe he thought she or I was making it up. We had a massive fight and he is pissed at me and my daughter is mad at her father. I'm pissed at my husband, but he's a guy and don't understand women's pain at all. Am I the asshole for not being more understanding? No. End video there. No, dear, you are not the arsehole. I can hand on heart tell you who the arsehole is, and it ain't you. It ain't you. It ain't your daughter. That title is firmly attached to your husband right now. Whilst your husband may not be able to understand based on sort of his own personal experience because he's not having periods, that's no excuse. That's no excuse. Not in this day and age, honey. I mean, a quick look on the internet can tell you otherwise. Like, how are you gonna see your daughter be in a load of pain and say she's making it up? How? I mean, if she was making it up, that's got to be a fairly consistent effort on her behalf.
The Oscar goes to...
Even if she didn't have endometriosis, the fact that she is in such pain, like, oof. No. Just because you don't have periods, it's not an excuse to not learn about them, to not learn about how those who do have them, how they live with them, what their lived experiences are. Like anything else, like just because I don't experience something doesn't mean I can't ever research about it or listen to other people, listen to their own lived experiences and not understand that way. Like, there's no excuse. Certainly, darling, you are not the asshole. And anything, if anything, good on you for standing up for your daughter. Like, good on you. It's good to see as well that the school, I mean, I know it hasn't been the case in this situation, but it's good to see that the school is otherwise accommodating for this. Not every certainly wasn't the experience in my case, but it is good to see that the school is working with you to provide your daughter with that level of support that she clearly needs. And of course, ideally you want students to participate in lessons, but it shouldn't be at the expense of their health. Never at the expense of their health. But let's have a flick through and see what other people may have said. I'm kind of assuming... No, we won't assume. Endometriosis can kill. I mean, I've not heard of that personally, but it certainly... Again, if your daughter did have it, like, it can certainly cause horrendous pain. And even if she doesn't have it, clearly she is struggling with her periods and struggling with pain around her periods. So even if she doesn't have it, like, I would expect, a degree of sympathy from him, surely. Someone's pointed out, the problem with anything related to women's health issues is that there isn't enough research or treatment. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I do kind of get the impression that women's issues aren't always taken as seriously. I'm reluctant to put a really sort of solid opinion out there because I don't know for sure, but in my experience, I have not always felt listened to about my pain. Certainly being told, I remember being 13 and being told basically, to put up and shut up. I think it was a teacher that turned around and said to me particularly after one particularly bad episode, you're going to have this for the next 40 odd years, deal with it. Nanny girl. Oh, what's the matter, darling? Oh, my little calico. Sorry about that, my girl was calling. She was crying. Why were you crying, Nanny? Don't be starting arguments with your sister. Anywho, your husband needs to learn the phrase, no uterus, no opinion, when it comes to periods. I mean, as much as I like that, he is going to have an opinion. It's a clearly misinformed opinion, but, he certainly needs to kick up the backside. I don't advocate for violence, but... No, I don't advocate for violence, but he needs a metaphorical kick up the backside. Not the asshole, you are right to stand up for your daughter. Yep. You don't need to allow your husband excuses for not understanding women's health issues. He is not a helpless child. He is seemingly not incapable of Googling endometriosis and reading up on the effects. Yes, thank you. In this day and age, nobody has an excuse Nobody has that excuse. Internet is easily accessible for most people, not for everybody, but I'm gonna operate under the assumption that he can access the internet and he can Google and he can try and find out a bit more about what his daughter is going through. And if he's choosing not to, then that says an awful lot about him. Right. Whew, getting all riled up. On to the next post. This one I've kind of read ahead a bit already, so I've kind of cheated a little and selected this one specifically, but I'll read the actual thing and I'll explain a bit afterwards. It's an older post, 3 years ago, but am I the asshole for sharing too much with my professor? I, female 19, get embarrassed and anxious very easily and just had the oddest interaction with my professor, male I'd say 40s. So I had extreme stomach pain Sunday night. My friends take me to the ER. Turns out I had a ruptured ovarian cyst, and got diagnosed with endometriosis. I know I will miss my class Monday, so I email my professor. He says, okay, please just come to his office. Come to his office hours the next day to show him the excuse the doctor wrote. I do, and he asks me what had happened. I don't really want to get into it, so I just told him that I felt very sick, but they gave me pain meds and I'm fine now. He keeps prying for more info. Shouldn't be doing that. I tell him ruptured ovarian cyst or endometriosis. He asks what that means, so I explain what endometriosis is, tissue that lines the uterus growing outside of it, and that I had a cyst on my ovaries that ruptured. He literally had the most disgusted look on his face and says, I really did not need to know all about that. You should have just said female problems and left it at that. That really is too much information. Now I'm literally sweating and blushing and apologise profusely, and all he says is, it's very inappropriate to share details like that. If I knew that it was that kind of condition, I wouldn't have asked. You should know not to share that kind of stuff. You can go now.
That blood thing was so gross.
I'm literally so confused. I've never had an encounter like that with anyone. Did I do something wrong? I'm so embarrassed to go to class tomorrow. Edit for more info. Also, in response to a couple of comments, he's not tenured. In fact, he's a full-time lawyer. He only teaches this one class here once a semester. Maybe that has something to do with his lack of talking to students. No. Edit responded to some comments. I'm assuming I was talking too fast due to nerves, and he didn't hear ovarian clearly, because I was also very confused when he asked for further explanation on that one. Now, I'm sorry, but no, you're not the arsehole. I'm sorry, your professor is absolutely the arsehole there. First of all, he was the one that was prying to begin with. Like, if he's that embarrassed that easily when it comes to medical problems, then he should really just not pry. Just not pry. You shouldn't be prying in the first place.
All you gotta do is mind your business.
It is something that I have encountered before, in that people get uncomfortable with these sort of things. It's particularly when it comes to quote-unquote women's issues. Speaking from my own experience, I've had to learn over the years to not be embarrassed about talking about these things, because there's nothing embarrassing about it. It's you're talking about your health. You're not going into graphic nitty-gritty detail, and even then you're both adults. It's a professional enough setting. He may not be a medical expert, if he's a lawyer, but he's, I assume, not that daft. You should have just said female problems and left it at that. Get the head out of your backside. No, we need to feel comfortable to discuss these issues. And, it's not something that should be hidden away because it may offend, or you think it may offend someone's ears. I understand there's a time and a place, but this the appropriate time and the place. At the end of the day, he is an adult. He is an adult who should be more than capable of being able to take on that information and not be like this about it. I mean, just because he teaches what was it you said? Teaching that one class once a semester. I mean, he still, I assume, communicates with people outside of this because he's, particularly because he's a lawyer. People need to become better at discussing these things, and people need to become better at listening to these types of conversations, because that's how, if we don't discuss it, that's how these problems build up, and that's where things like shame, unfortunately, can come into play, where people feel so ashamed to even come out about these issues. Even if he didn't hear ovarian clearly, he heard endometriosis. But then again, he may not have even heard about endometriosis, and the only way he's going to hear about endometriosis if he actually goes out and researches or talks about it, or hears about it from people. People need to become better at communicating. People need to become better at discussing these topics, and people need to become better at listening to them. And the only way we're going to do that is by being open, is by being honest. The only way we can communicate our own needs is by being open and honest. And he shouldn't have pried in the first place, but again, he asked. And as an adult, he should just be able to accept that information. Even if it did make him feel a little bit uncomfortable, there's no need to vocalise that. There's no need to vocalise it at all. Let's just see what the people have said. Yeah, not the asshole. I teach at the college level, and I want you to know that your professor's prying was unprofessional. Yeah, it is. Shouldn't be prying for that information. If you volunteer it willingly, it's one thing, but no one should be poking and prodding at you for information like that, because whilst you shouldn't feel ashamed about talking about it, it is personal information, and it may not be information that you particularly want to discuss about, not because you're ashamed or anything but because you just don't want to. And again, you presented a note from the doctor explaining the situation, and that should have been it. Well, this is nice to see. Thanks, everyone. This is my first year in college, and I get awful anxiety about having to talk to my professors and go into office hours. So I've literally been replaying and analysing this situation since it happened. It's reassuring to know that I was not the one at fault. Yeah, I can understand that. Anxiety is not a nice thing to deal with. And, of course, unfortunately, situations like that, it can play on your mind, but rest assured, if, and it's the same for anybody else out there who's been in similar situations where you've volunteered this information and you've been greeted with disgust and this sort of level of revulsion, you're not at fault. You are not to blame. And at the end of the day, adults should be able to have this. I mean, people in general should be able to have this conversation, Okay, you may not be kids and having it, but, anybody, from puberty onwards, this information should be, readily and easily discussed, and it is actually skills that we should be teaching. Not the arsehole, you need to report this to somebody very unprofessional of him. Yeah, I would. I mean, again, I know this is quite a few years ago, but again, if you end up in a situation like this, if you can, feel free to, report it further. Don't sit there and think you have to take that from people, because you don't. You absolutely don't. And even if you don't go on to report it, know that it is not your fault. You are not the one at fault. And if anything, the fact that you were strong enough to even come out with that information in the first place, because a lot of people aren't. A lot of people don't feel comfortable with that. The fact that you are able to come out and explain and articulate this clearly enough, you shouldn't feel at fault at all, But no, I mean, in this situation, this person wasn't the arsehole. And if you are in a similar situation, or you've been through a similar situation, then I'm going to assume, there may be other underlying factors, I don't know, but on the basis of this, no, not the arsehole. Not the arsehole. Sorry about that, the camera ended up dying on me. Let's try and get back to where I was. Now my cat's decided to... This is the witching hour for cats, I swear. It is getting late. Well, it's getting late. Well, we'll do one more. We'll do one more for the shits and giggles. Ooh, juicy. Yeah, no, this is what I'm going to get angry at straight away. But you know what? We'll go for an obvious one right here, just to finish it off. Am I the arsehole for accusing my girlfriend of exaggerating her period and using it as an excuse to avoid doing things? I feel like I'm gonna say that, yeah, you are the asshole before I've even read it, but, you know, let's read, just to see if my opinion changes at all. It could well, I doubt it. I'm a bit jaded. So, my girlfriend, 28 female, and I, 29 male, have been together for 2 years and lived together for 8 months now. Every time she gets her period, she always lets me know about it and keeps talking about it all the time. Yet she still goes to work without issue and seems fine even on the day she works from home. Once she is done with work, though, she will say that she is in pain and cannot cook and order takeout or make shortcut meals. Heaven forbid. She will refuse to do things and just lay down, even things like going for a walk and going to see my friends, yet sometimes she still sees hers. This does not actually bother me that much, but the fact that... Well, if it don't bother you, then why are you talking about it? This does not actually bother me that much, but the fact that she keeps talking about her period all the time gets annoying.
Oh wow, I can't even comprehend how inappropriate this is.
There's a poo. Sorry, need the cat. Emotional support cat. Right, where was I? She has seen multiple doctors and they all said she is fine and just told her to use some painkillers, which she does, and she is on top of all her health appointments. The reason I think she is exaggerating it is she seems completely fine when friends are around, or if we are at her or my parents' places. She seems to be in a great mood on her work calls, then after work complains about having to work while on her period. I know there is probably some mild to moderate feeling of your body being different, but none of my exes complained this much, and I grew up with 2 sisters and nor did they. Some of them even did sports while on their period. Jesus. I finally told her I understand it is uncomfortable, but she should not make the whole day and everything about her period for attention. And she got mad at me and called me an arsehole. I did not mean it in a way to belittle her. I just thought she should learn to deal with it better. You what? Edit. Okay, maybe I should have phrased it better and been less accusatory towards her. I do understand she might be uncomfortable, but I guess my problem was more that I did not like that it becomes the only thing she talks about it when she's on it. And maybe my experience with my exes and sisters is clouding my judgment, since it did not seem like a big deal to them. Yeah, my opinion not changed. So let me tear into this bitch. Nah, we'll be nice. No, I'm not going to be nice. Screw that. Yeah, no, definitely the arsehole. Definitely. Shadow of a doubt. No doubt at all. Arsehole. That last line, I did not mean it in a way to belittle her. Well, you kind of are. Like, you kind of are belittling... You're literally belittling the problem. And in doing so, belittling her. I just thought she should learn to deal with it. So, which is it? Either you recognise that she is in a significant amount of pain and she just needs to learn to deal with it better, or the pain was never there to begin with, or it was only a mild amount of pain and she's just exaggerating. I'll bleep this out, but fuck off. I'm gonna have to bleep that out. Will I bleep it out? You get the hint. Fuck off. So, I mean, you've lived together for 8 months, but you've been together for 2 years, so surely mind you, I suppose if you're the sort of person you are that, I'm going to assume that, it was only a month ago. Oh, good Lord. Oh, together 9 months now. I wonder if you are. All right, let's take this little bit by little bit. Every time she gets her period, she always lets me know about it and keeps talking. I mean, I'd like to think she doesn't have to let you know, but, if she's in a significant amount of pain, I mean, good on her for communicating that with you. Is that not what you want? For her to be open and honest with you? And to make the whole day about it, well, if you are in pain, it don't just appear when you have the conversation in the morning to let you know and then it goes away. And as for this, she's able to work and she's able to go out and, she's able to be normal in front of my parents and she's able to be normal in front of her parents and she can be normal in front of her. That's called masking. That's called putting on a front. That's called smiling through gritted teeth. At the end of the day, I don't know where you are in the world, but, majority of places don't have any, sort of policies in place that would protect somebody, for taking time off work because they're on their period. I've heard of menstrual leave coming in other areas, but I'm going to assume it's not the case in this. And again, in front of others, in front of the parents, in front of friends, in front of anybody that's not you two, you in home. Again, it's putting on a front. It's masking the pain so as to appear normal and not invite the questions and the poking and the prying of other people. Maybe it's a case of not wanting to worry other people or just wanting to, realising that, okay, I've got to go out. Not that you've got to go out, you ain't got to go out. But, it's that feeling of not wanting to... It's that feeling of not wanting to make it seem like it's as big a deal as it is to other people. And then when you get home, that's when your barriers can come down. That's when you can just be yourself. And if yourself is in pain, then once the door closes, you can just... Sorry, Nezzy. And surely you'd want her to be herself in front of you and not be putting masks up and not be putting the barriers up in front of you because she's in pain and just gritting and bearing it. You drive yourself mad doing that. And yeah, no wonder after a day of work she's come back and she just wants to do a cheap meal, either a quick takeaway or a quick, quick shortcut meal. I mean, feed yourself however you can. Feed yourself however you can. And if that means a takeaway meal, you have a bloody takeaway. You enjoy yourself, love. And just lays down. Well, yeah. Yeah, if you're going to be in pain after you worked all day, of course you're just going to want to just lie down and relax. Well, say relax. Relax as the best you can when you're in a bloody load of pain. She has seen multiple doctors and they've all said she is fine and just told her to use some painkillers. Oh, how many times have I heard that now? As I've said previously, it's on average, at least in the UK, 7.5 to 8 years. It depends, but it's about that for the average for an endometriosis diagnosis. It's not been mentioned in here, but like I said before, just because you don't have endometriosis doesn't mean you can't have, horrible periods. It doesn't mean you can't have a horrible time with periods, the heavy pain, heavy pain, the heavy bleeding, the horrible pain, you know. And like painkillers can take it out of you as well. I mean, a couple of paracetamol may not be a problem, but if you need anything stronger, just so you can get through the day, again, I know the feeling, it can knock you out as well. Like, never mind just being in pain, you can be absolutely tired as well. Sorry, I've got the cat. My beautiful girl. You're going to settle yourself now, Sue. You're going to settle yourself. And she's off. Not everybody has the same experiences with periods, like I've said, and clearly is the case with your sisters and from your exes, from what you've said, like you could be perfectly fine and go out for sports. And I've never met these sorts of individuals, but you know, apparently they're out there. At least according to all the adverts you see on the telly, there are a significant number of, you know, people out there that do suffer with it. You know, and to write it off because of a handful of people that you've come into contact with that don't, when someone is telling you that they are. You know, you're living together 8 months now and you're together 2 years, and you're going to turn around and pull rubbish like this out. Mild to moderate feeling of your body being different. More like, if it's at all mild to moderate, the feeling of several thousand hamsters just gnawing away at the inside of you, trying to find their way out, of knives just stabbing you in the stomach, of just this being that wants to, like, claw its way out. I'm being a bit, yeah. She should not make the whole day and everything about her period for attention. Well, clearly then she's not doing it for attention. Clearly, if she's hiding it literally in front of everybody else, where's the attention being got? Where is it being got? If she's going out to work and, you know, she's not letting it affect her work, and she's not letting it show in front of her parents or your parents or in front of friends or anything like that. You know, if it's just in front of you, how is it for attention? You're living together. If you want attention, you can do it in a number of ways. You know, you're being daft, love. But, yeah, no. So I'm going to entertain myself now and have a look through the comments. So, yeah, first one. You're the arsehole. Did it occur to you that she pretends not to be in constant pain while on work calls or around friends, but feels comfortable to express her feelings in her own home? Yeah. For some people, period pain can be debilitating. She might push through it for work, but can't and shouldn't push herself to fake it in her home, where she should be. You should be comfortable in bloody home. You should be comfortable enough just to lounge out if you need to. And honestly, from what you've described, a day, I mean, hell, even if it's just a couple of days out of the month, if she needs to just lounge and pick out and order a bloody takeaway and have a couple of bars of chocolate, and, you know, she's otherwise able to, you know, why not have that? And if it is something that's more debilitating, you do need to support her. I haven't found anything wrong yet. Doesn't mean that there isn't. Yeah, exactly. One of the reasons for, I think, you know, why it's so long to get a diagnosis for endometriosis is that the symptoms can apply to a number of other conditions. You know, again, it could well be that there is nothing, at least, how do I put it? It could be that there is nothing sort of pathologically wrong, but there is obviously still the issue of, you know, you've got just horrible periods, nasty pain and stuff like that. It could just be that you have that anyway, that is just what you've got. There's nothing pathologically wrong. It's just you've got that. You know, the main, you know, I think, words? Is it, before I pull this completely out of my backside, one of the things that sort of contributes to period pain is the contracting of the uterus. Basically your uterus, from what I understand, contracts to yeet the blood out. A hormone that is responsible for this is prostaglandins, and right at the start of the, the period, right at the start of the period, prostaglandin levels are high, and it could just well be that you are one of those people that happens to have a fairly high level of it. It could be that there is nothing pathologically wrong. It could be that that is just your lot. But that doesn't mean it can't be treated, Just because there is nothing pathologically wrong doesn't mean, you can't look at other things like birth controls. I mean, if you don't want to go down the birth control route, maybe looking at other types of pain medication. I mean, pain medication, but other types of sort of pain relief as well. Things like heat therapy, taking hot baths, the hot water bottles, or things like TENS machines, for example. I mean, they've worked well for me. But there are a number of ways in which you can explore to try and ease the pain with periods. And it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Some people get on with other things better than others. Like the whole birth control thing, not everybody wants to take it. Not everybody can take it. Maybe, like I said, there are options out there that can be utilized to reduce period pain. My point is, right now you don't know either way, but what you do know is that she's in pain on a period. She's in big time pain on a period. Even if she can go out and work and put on a face, to the rest of the world that everything is a-okay when she is not. She comes home and she feels comfortable enough to be able to just be herself as she should. And as her partner, you are kind of one of the expected tasks of being a partner is to, be there for them and, not be a complete arsehole. Yeah, it wouldn't be news for a woman to have severe period pain and medical issues dismissed as her just being dramatic. I mean, like I said, it took me 3.5 years, but I went through several routes, and at one point when I'm told, how are you feeling? Basically the insinuation of it was all in my head. At that point, I just, fists wanted to start flying. I boiled down to it. It took me almost bullying the GP to get me referred to a specialist. Got there in the end. You're the asshole. So next one, yet another comment. You're the asshole. I get horribly painful periods, and have for the last 15 years. Want to take a guess as to how many times I've called off work for it? Never. It isn't because I'm not in pain. It's because if I didn't go to work when I felt terrible, I'd have called off multiple times a month. And who has that kind of sick leave? Guess what else I can't do when I go home? Chores, dishes, cooking, going out with friends. You have absolutely zero idea of what she's feeling and need to stop pretending you do. You're a massive arsehole. Yeah, I mean, I get it. The amount of times I've gone into work feeling absolutely terrible, but you just sort of smile and wave. You just smile and get on with it.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
And, well, in my case, I don't really smile and get on with it. I get on with it, but it's with a definite sort of grimace on my face. People at work, they know to... I mean, my colleagues work, my friends at work, they know. But yeah, I get it. And that's the thing. You go into work, you do your damnedest at work, and it's not just the work, it's the commuting to and from, and getting yourself ready to then commute, to then do the work, to then commute back. There may be a couple of other essential things that get thrown into the mix. But yeah, by the time you come home, you're knackered, you're done, you're finished. And that's clearly the case with her. Yeah, you're the arsehole. You don't assume that everybody's going to experience it the same way, and listen when someone is telling you that they are in pain, listen. Because you are privileged enough that she feels comfortable enough to tell you that she is in pain. You know, so don't take that lightly. Don't take that and, throw it right back at her. Oh, you're just doing it for attention. You're just exaggerating. Don't try and tell her she knows nothing about her body. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I don't even think you were doing that. I think you were outright basically saying she was bullshitting. She was playing it up. And frankly, I don't know what's worse. But yeah, OP, it doesn't hurt to, actually listen and see what it is your other half's going through. And, a bit of compassion, wouldn't go amiss at all in this situation. Flicking through this, the other arsehole, it seems to be almost categorical. Huge, massive, gaping, yeah. Yeah. Person's nailed it right on the head. It's good to see that you do intend on doing further research, or at least that's what you've said here, and I hope that you've actually followed through with that and enlightened yourself and are actually being a whole lot more supportive than it seems like you are being in this post. Because, Lord, like, you this ain't it. This ain't it. This not it. This is what you need to not do as a partner. So read this. No, this is what we don't do. Okay? But yeah, I've got a few more of these. I will probably do like a separate video. Maybe I'll get a couple of videos out of this, who knows. To be honest, I've found it quite interesting to be able to flick through. And of course, I've not just done it for endometriosis. I've did it, just again out of curiosity to see what other things would come up for, other sort of health and disability related things. I mean, it was more specific to sort of my own health issues. But yeah, but I've got like a few more of endometriosis specific ones I found, and so I may do another video in the future. We'll see. But yeah, I certainly want to do a video specifically on endometriosis. I want to do a video specifically like doing a bit more of an in-depth look at endometriosis. Like, obviously, again, I'm not a medical professional, not in any way, shape or form. The reason I know anything about endometriosis is through going through it through myself, as well as having family members going through it. And it would be the same with my other health issues, and how that impacts me on day-to-day life. That's the only reason I know. But I do feel like if I'm going to be making videos of, centered around things like endometriosis and stuff, I'd like to have something on my channel that I could at least refer back to. If nothing else, as well as a way of perhaps tackling some of the bits of misinformation I found. I'm pretty sure I've seen videos that have actually been done by doctors. Oh, I can't remember that one fella's name now. But I'm sure if I can find the videos I'm thinking of, I'll link them in the description. I do like these. I find somewhat cathartic, actually, to be able to just get annoyed and just get up at them. Hopefully I'll stick at this, because I would actually quite like to continue making videos and continue, actually stick with this channel. So if this video was at all interesting to you, I would appreciate if you gave us a like, or if you didn't like it, you could give us a dislike as well. If you've got any feedback, be it good, bad, or indifferent, feel free to put comment. Feel free to shove a comment on the video. It would be massively appreciated. And if you think you'd like to see me in the future, if you want to subscribe, I'm not gonna. No, I'm not gonna force you. But if you are interested in seeing any future content from me, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe. And if nothing else, like, subscribe for the Nezu, who absolutely hates me for doing that to her now. I'm sorry, Nezu. She hasn't jumped off my lap. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. She hasn't jumped off my lap yet. Oh God, I can't speak now. I think I need to go to bed. So, I will end the video here. Take care of yourselves, guys, and I hope to see you, in the next one. All right. Peace.